You are about listening to a message from Shofar Youth Fellowship, where we have the mandate to reach the unsaved and disciple the saved. Shofar Youth Fellowship is an arm of Shofar Ward International Ministry, a ministry with the mandate to make ready a people prepared unto the Lord. We know that the Lord will light your lamp and give you attention to His word in Jesus' name. Connect with us on a social media platform on Facebook at Shofar Ward International Ministry, on Instagram and YouTube at The Shofar Youth, on Telegram at Shofar Youth Fellowship. WhatsApp on this mobile number 070-7688-7952. God bless you as you listen to this message.
Albert said we started June 12th. It must be correct. So, either that June 12th or maybe the Sunday before or after it, we'll check the calendar. We'll have a worship meeting. We publicize it a bit to mark our 3rd year anniversary of gisting in this place. Okay. So let me say up front that I am a little bit worried that I may be sounding like acquire to Maguire to respire and transpire people today, because the Lord gave me a list of some thoughts that I wrote down as principles of purpose. Of course, there are scriptural principles. There are principles that can be founded in scripture effortlessly. But because I'm not used to making this kind of list, it's looking like acquire to Maguire just to me. So, so that's why I'm saying it up front, that in case I sound like the respire to transpire brethren, people will just manage for today. I try to get some to put together what to teach today, but it looks like I will not get something else to teach unless I teach this one. So let me teach this one so that I can see road. Because this was actually the first list of thoughts that the Lord brought to my heart when I was going to start my portion of this series. Why does it look like the former mic is better than this one? I don't think it's a mic. Obviously, they are the same mic, but maybe setting looks like it's quite low and the high frequency is it's sounding bassy. Okay, so I wrote down a few thoughts, I think about 10 of them. I wasn't trying to make it 10. I just was writing as they were coming. It turned out they were 10. So if another one comes to make it 11, I will happily make it 11. I'm not emotionally attached to any figure in this matter. So the first one I wrote down is something that I've already shared around. But there were a few additional thoughts that came to my mind as I was going through the book of Ezekiel recently, that my Ezekiel and thinking about people like Moses and the likes of them that I might bring to bear in this thought. And I'm going to be assuming you have been reading your Bible, because I'm not going to be opening every portion of it and showing you bit by bit. So if you have not been reading your Bible, we'll make the assumption on you, so you will catch up on the assumption. Today is Emmy Branham's birthday. How many of you have bought him ice cream? They said I should come, they should pray for you. You don't have you don't have respect for the prayer of the brethren. Ike, good to see you. How is it that you came so early today? Oh, okay. Apparently. The way Gladys is getting fine these days calls for suspicion. We need to set up a committee to look into this matter. Why did you people have to bring Albert into this matter? Well, now you know what they find behind the scene. you should have stayed in the scene. You wouldn't have been discussing what is happening behind it. Are you a stage manager? What are you doing behind the scene? So, the number one thought on principles of purpose that came to mind was purpose precedes design. Purpose precedes design. You know, I was looking at, I was on a group where we were discussing what was going on with a certain building like that. Looks like it's going to be a 3-story building or something like that. And the engineer that was in charge of the group, that was in charge of the building project, by the time they finished the foundation, all they had done was the foundation. The guy said, when the man was reporting, he said the work is 75% complete. I'm like, bro, all you did was finish foundation. How is foundation 75% of the work? But well, the man is an engineer. And the brethren, now it's not like he's scamming the brethren. He took pictures and sent it to us. So we saw where the work was. All he has done was foundation. If anything left the foundation, is just a few blocks. Basically, it was foundation. And his report was that the work was 75% complete. And I'm wondering, foundation is 75% of what was going to turn out to be a 3-story building. And that tells us how important foundation is and how important the concept of design is. The person who designed the building understood that once you take foundation out, most of the job that it requires to get this thing done is done. And the failure of the entire thing that will rise into the sky, the success or failure of it depends on that foundation. You know, there was a time when it was like a plague. One building or the other was collapsing in Lagos every other week. And lots of those buildings, the problem was foundation. I mean, one part of the building where you cannot afford to be managing money is foundation. You can decide to manage money with whatever else, but you can't manage money at the foundation. Even if you are a wicked soul and you want to swindle the people that are building the house by using inferior material, unless you already have a special place in hell, at the very least, you should not manage money at the foundation. Because that is one place where if there is a problem, it can't be fixed. The only way to fix a foundation problem is that you have to pull down the building. I stayed in a house sometimes when the owner of the house wanted to continue the building. We met the house decked, and we had beautiful experiences in that house. I mean, that was a place where when I'm doing that time I was in choir. And we used to do interesting things. It was Foursquare, so we used to have monthly theme. So there was the yearly theme. Pastors, I think it was pastors that came up with monthly theme. I'm not sure, really, it doesn't matter. But we used to have a theme for every month. Now, when I go to choir rehearsals on Saturday, the choir mistress will give me the theme. Let's say this is the first Saturday of the month. She will write the theme on a sheet of paper and a text and give it to me and tell me this is the theme. We don't have song. Then I'll go to children's church and pray in tongues for like 15 minutes and receive a song and write it down and walk to choir rehearsal and go and teach it to sing it the following day. People will be asking me, hey, that song that you sent, I don't on my Bluetooth, please send it to me. Say, which Bluetooth did you on? Song that I wrote inside that place yesterday that we rehearsed yesterday and came to sing this morning. I on Bluetooth for me to send it to you. They were so sure that the song came from that we listened to it and then we rehearsed it. The intro they played, the instrumentalists had to come up with it over there. Because I went to children's church to write. Now, this is not one-off thing. This is something that happened every other Saturday. It wasn't a big deal. Just walk there and stay there and pray in tongues and collect song and come and teach choir and sing it tomorrow. And I do not know what role that training played. Because the reason I am spending a little time on this design and on the matter of foundation. You know, scripture says that if the foundation be destroyed, then what can the righteous do? Now, that building, that decked house I was talking about, was the place where, after we have rehearsed it in choir, I now need to spend time and pray until I soak the revelation behind the song. I've already taught the song. But I used to assume I don't know the song until I spent time praying the song. I wanted to sing the song from revelation, not sing it because we have been able to nail it together. That was when I started hearing I used to hear instrumentalists play for me when I'm rehearsing on top of that decking. There was a good part to it in that I enjoyed good worship by myself on that decking. That was my mountain. I had a very good time in that place. Sometimes you even sleep there overnight when it is hot. If it rains, water will gather there, so we'll go and swim. That was all the swimming pool we had. We had interesting experiences in that place. Thank God we didn't fall from the decking because there was nothing we didn't do on top of that decking. Absolutely nothing we did not do there. So, even though that house had been designed to carry another house, because there was already a decking on top of it, when the woman that owned the house went to call a bricklayer to come and continue the building, because the people in the house were complaining that, this decking you abandoned is soaking water and is disturbing the main house. The wall will be soaking water and You know how it is, molds and all that start growing on the wall. So people start telling the woman to come and build the house. If you know you are not going to build something on top of it, you could have just roofed this house. Why did you deck house that you are not planning to put something on top? Stop being dumb. So when they started harassing the woman, she finally said she wanted to. Then the bricklayer came and said, and walked around the house. The man started screaming. Said, who is the madman that built this house? The house was decked. There was not one pillar to be found in the house. Not one. And it was decked. Somebody's father collected money and decked a house that has not one pillar in it. Not in the walls, not in the middle of anywhere, not one pillar to be found. And it is, of course, if you deck it, the expectation is that you put something on top of it later. But not one pillar to be found. So it was that man, whatever money the woman gathered together somewhere, that she's planning to use to build something on top of the house. That man was the one that now had to break the house and dig into the ground and cast pillar into an already existing house. Because the man said, I am not the one that is going to join you to build something on top of a house that has no pillar. My point is, you could do that because it was a problem with pillar. If the problem was the foundation, there's no corrective measure for that. Absolutely no corrective measure. There was a time we were negotiating whether to knock out this or not to knock it out. We could discuss that because it was pillar. And a lot of things that people discuss like as foundational matters are actually not foundational matter. A lot of things people assume are the most critical part of our faith, critical part of the concept of success, are actually not foundational matter. A lot of them are just pillars. Those ones can be adjusted. They can be negotiated. You can decide, okay, let's not put it here, let's put it there. You can negotiate around it. Okay, this one will disturb us here. Can we move it to this corner? Can we knock this out and maybe erect one pillar here instead and another pillar here instead? You can do all that with pillars. With foundation, you can't negotiate it. It is fixed. So you see scriptures like the foundation of the Lord standeth sure, having this seal, the Lord knoweth those that are his. Let him that nameth the name of the Lord depart from iniquity. Those are foundational matters. It stands, it is firm, it is sealed, it's permanent, it can't be shifted. That's foundation. And before the Lord as much as lays the foundation of anything or anybody's life, before your life begins, the Lord has first of all concluded the matter of design on the basis of purpose. So until we are clear about purpose, it is unreasonable to start discussing matters of design. It is based on purpose that design is decided. So, how far down foundation has to go is so, for instance, when they wanted to lay the foundation of this house, they already made up their mind that this was going to be a one-story building. They already made up their mind that this was going to be whatever kind of house it is. They decided what this was going to be. And then it was on that basis they decided what the foundation was going to look like, what purpose was going to serve, and all that. After that decision was made, the foundation was. It was on that basis that the depth of the foundation was decided. But, how many of you know this Civil Service Commission at Sapler Road, Palm House? You don't know anywhere apart from Uniben. People have any tall building in Uniben? You know the way they used to build in Uniben? I used to wonder if whoever decides where to put that building, if they have any foresight whatsoever. They spread building, follow everywhere like fried egg. Just look at this place, slam one building there. Just look at that place. What's that space doing there? Slam one building there. They just look over there. Why is that space there? Knock one building for there. It looks like that's where they get. I can swear there's no plan whatsoever. They just see empty land and they cross it with a building. And all of them, it's also one-story building, bungalow, one-story building, bungalow. It is totally idiotic because the land in that school is not that much. It looks like the land is much. A time we come, they will need to build something important, there will be no space. Because they have slammed all kind of irrelevancies, just slam it there, slam it there. Once they see one ETF money or whatever, I wonder how they make those decisions. Just slam you in all the dumbest places. So I'm looking for a tall building to use as an example now. I can't come up with a tall building in Unibe. Is there a tall building in Unibe? Faculty. Okay, yeah, that one tall, small. At least in the days when people were using their brain, they built that one. So, you see, we have about, I think, four-story building or something is what we have in that faculty complex. What it cost, the amount of materials that went under those buildings, under some of those buildings, can build a mansion in some other places. The amount of resources that went under it, so that it will be able to bear the weight of a high-rise building. That is why Jesus Christ said, is there a man that wants to build his house that does not first of all count the cost, so that he doesn't start a building he cannot finish? Because the cost of decking a house, decking some kind of houses, can actually build a fresh one in another place. So before you deck the house, you should ask yourself, do I have the money to put another thing on top of it? Otherwise, just roof the thing in peace and move in and carry on your life. Know that you have finished building house. I'm saying all that to say that a very critical factor in determining design is purpose. And when you look at the life of a person, or when you look at your life, your design, the way you have been fashioned, is based on a purpose that the Lord has known in his heart before you were formed in your mother's womb. Such that even our body was fashioned to fit into a certain purpose. So if you are short, there's no need to hate it. The Bible says, lo, I am with you always. Whatever the Lord has designed for you to accomplish, your height is just good enough for it. If you are tall, it is fine too. Those are the children of the Most High. Whatever it is that the Lord has decided for you to do, the Lord has designed, purpose the Lord has designed for you to serve. This your body too has a place, has a role to play in it. It is part of it. If you are one of those people that once you smell fried chicken, it is 1,000 calories. Just smell, the smell of it, you have added 5 kg. Well, it is fine too that your size has its use in the entire. Some of you, your size, you have not yet discovered your size. There are those that when they marry, they discover their real size. The thing that they are brandishing as their size right now is just rehearsal. Their real size will manifest when they marry. So don't be too in a hurry to make assumption about your size. Even some men, as soon as they marry now, they start adding weight in all the wrong places. So I'm saying even down to what we would have considered insignificant, like our body, it is designed for sacrifice. It is designed to serve a certain purpose. It was all part of the design. So you see, when people, for instance, imagine that Samson must have been a big burly guy. I mean, Samson must have been like Brock Lesnar, or must have been like Bobby Lashley, or Braun Strowman. You think about it. If you see people like Braun Strowman flinging people all over the place, will you be asking him what is the source of your strength? Hey, they don't know who Braun Strowman is. Yeah. No, forget it. They don't know anybody. You know Batista. Okay, you know Bobby Lashley. It's okay. You don't know. Yeah. Well, those are wrestlers. Okay, do you know The Rock? Dwayne Johnson. You know that one. Do you know Arnold Schwarzenegger in his days? Okay, sorry, you are a Christian. Now, wow, do you know Kenneth Hagin? Except that it's not relevant for this purpose. Well, you people should go and browse the picture of Braun Strowman and just check out the size. Well, those are huge wrestlers with people like McHenry. You can't look at all those people with all their chest and all the muscles. And you just see them collect people like Chidiwem and throw them out through the window. And you're like, hey, bros, what's the source of your strength? Are you blind? Can you not see the guy? The size of the guy already explained the source of his strength. It will be necessary for somebody like Samson to look like me for a story to make sense as a miracle. Otherwise, there's nothing miraculous about his life. The only thing that makes it make sense that he's doing what he does by the anointing is that his muscle and his body size does not explain the thing that he's doing. Because if he has muscle that already makes the point, then it doesn't make any sense that you're asking him what's the source of your strength. It has to be that he has a look that doesn't match his performance in battle. That's why they're asking him, bro, how are you pulling this off? So I'm saying even his body must have been fashioned to demonstrate to whoever is looking that whatever he's doing is being done by the Spirit of God. And the processes that God takes people through, the making of men, especially if you look at the life of certain prophets, and you see the process of their making, you will know that the Lord has seen in advance what their purpose is going to be before they showed up, and even their body was fashioned to be able to handle certain hurdles, certain stress. And the journey of their life was fashioned to prepare them for the assignment. So you see, Moses needed a combination of his experience as a warrior and his experience as a shepherd following Jethro's sheep up and down to be effective in his ministry as a prophet. Because if all he did was he went from being a soldier and then he stands up from that place and starts leading the people of Israel, he will use annoyance to kill everybody. It's either he will kill everybody or they will gang up against him and stone him to death. Somebody must die. Somebody is going to have to die. Although Moses said he's the meekest man on earth, who am I to argue? But it's either he has anger issues or the children of Israel were terribly annoying. Because the number of times, well, I cannot promise myself to do better than him leading those kind of people. They were stiff-necked. You know, it's very interesting. You know, God is a very interesting person. The same God who got angry with Moses for calling them stiff-necked people. There was a time God now said, Moses, come and see your people. These your people, they are started again. And Moses is like, so yeah, they are my people now, Abi. They are suddenly my people. Are you serious? These people that I told you I don't want to go and bring out, you said I should bring them out by force. Now they are my people, eh? He got to a point. Moses said, wait. Am I their father? Am I the one that gave birth to them? Why have you cursed me with the burden of carrying these people? You know, the only place where he must have acquired the patience to pull off that journey in the wilderness was following sheep. No, they don't teach that kind of patience in the army of Egypt. But the earlier part of the wars they were going to execute, Moses needed to coordinate it before Joshua now stepped in to start leading the battle. But the earlier part of the war, Moses needed to coordinate it. Moses needed to handle the strategies. I imagine he went to some of the wars with them physically. It's not all the wars that, because the only story we know about the wars that the children of Israel fought is that Moses went to hold rod. That was one war. There were several other wars where he was not holding rod, where he had to show up. Because he trained as a soldier. So he needed the sturdiness of a soldier, the perseverance of a soldier. But the patience, the meekness, the gentleness is going to take to lead those crazy fellows. He needed to go and acquire it by following sheep. So the entire process of his life, from birth. You know, when he was born, they looked at, the description of him was that the mother looked at him and found out that he was a goodly child. Some versions say he was a beautiful child. A proper child. Now, that is not simply describing his looks. Because you see, the basis for describing beauty, let me see if I can come up with an example. Now, imagine you want to host a wedding reception. And you are expecting, let's say, 1,000 guests. And you are looking for venue. And then, I brought you to this place. But before I brought you here, I changed the paint. I changed the decoration. Just nice it up. Just imagine whatever we can do to nice up this place. Nice it up very well. But you have told me that 1,000 guests is what you are expecting. Then I brought you here as a recommendation of the venue for a 1,000 guest reception. Will you consider it a beautiful venue, even though I made it really, really fine? The basis upon which beauty is described is not just that this thing is fine or this thing is cute. Is that it looks fit, suitable for the purpose that it is designed to serve. That is the basis upon which the beauty is conferred upon a thing. That's how important purpose is in design. So you see, if I am designing a vehicle, and when I was thinking about it, I was hoping the vehicle is going to be able to carry a polygamous family. An Urobo polygamous family. That's my water. So I'm designing a vehicle that I'm hoping is going to, now you know, there are certain tribes that are very anointed for certain things. I think Urobo women are particularly anointed to increase and multiply. Because I grew up in Lagos, living with one of them. I think that woman had maybe 11 or 12 children alone. Now, they used to do more. They even used to do more. She probably is one of the lazy ones. Exactly. They're always very precise. I don't think that woman is bigger than Esosa. So Esosa, you have done at least the disciples of Jesus. You have not started giving birth. It's not the one you born to. You now say you have achieved something in life. I think that woman had 11 or more than children. And she still look like another person can still marry her and continue yourself if you want. So, I want to design a car to carry a polygamous family. An Urobo polygamous family. Will I make something like Ferrari? Will I make a Bugatti? Or a Lamborghini? Now, not because those are bad cars. But if what I have in mind is to carry a polygamous Urobo family, I should be thinking of something that can carry maybe 80 people. Let's just do a luxurious bus, straight up. No, but because we really don't want to call it a bus. We want it to look like a family vehicle. I mean, we say we're avoiding this thing. You say Emmanuel. That thing is a death trap. I don't know why anybody in Lagos that still goes about in Emmanuel doesn't. Especially if the thing is going to carry you across Tomeland Bridge. If you go just die for road, everybody will come down and find their way. Because if that thing go fabric for Tomeland Bridge, that's it. You are food for the fishes. You don't want to do that. The risk is not worth it. So, when I'm designing that kind of vehicle, let's say I've decided, okay, this vehicle should be able to carry 80 people. The Urobo man in question is a very rich man. He can afford to pay whatever it takes. So I'm looking to build a very comfortable vehicle that, let's say, can carry 50 people. But I cannot want to build that and also prioritize and also pack a lot of speed inside the vehicle at the same time. And say I'm looking for a vehicle that can do 300 kilometers per hour. And can gather up to can gather that 300 kilometers within 30 seconds. They don't need that kind of speed. They are not trying to race all over the place. So you see, I haven't sat down and decided what the purpose of the vehicle is. I factor it into the design. How much speed does this kind of vehicle need to be able to gather? How comfortable do I want it to be? Who are the kind of people I'm hoping will be able to buy it? And it is the same thing the Lord has in mind. The same way he was thinking about it when he was making people like Moses. And the making is not when they give birth to you. No. The process of the making stretches through your entire lifetime. The making keeps happening. Even when you have started fulfilling the purpose, the making is an ongoing process. Because there are adjustments that the Lord, if he doesn't make that adjustment in your life at the age of 40, at the age of 45, at the age of 50, it might be the reason why your life ends in a scandal at the age of 80. After what is supposed to have been a successful ministry. So if you look at the processes of people like David, first of all, he started out as arguably the child of a bastard of some sort, the product of a way match or maybe offside kick of some sort. But they just scored the goal and the referee decided to allow the goal. That was why his brothers were particularly irritated with him. So you see David will say things like, in sin did my mother conceive me. He's not saying that my mother is a sinner. She sinned more than every other person in Israel. It's very much likely that David was conceived out of wedlock. You notice they never told us the name of his mother. He's also going to say things like, when my father and my mother forsake me, thou, O Lord, will take care of me. How else do you explain the fact that in a wilderness where people are aware of the possibility of a bear and a lion, all the bushes around Edo State, the only thing you expect there is bush meat, not bear and lion. You're not expecting bear and lion inside your this thing. Well, I don't know if any S-man is a bear or a lion, but in a wilderness where they are aware that bears and lion exist, I don't think you send the last born of the house that you genuinely care about to be the one following sheep about in those kind of places. Now, after a lion came and he slew the lion, I don't think you're going to find a teenager who you kill a lion and just keep it hush-hush and not tell anybody. He's going to bring it home now. Even if he doesn't bring the entire body, if all he can do is bring the head. Because if he does not bring any part of the lion's body to prove that he killed lion, he will explain entire, no evidence. So you probably will come up with a significant portion of the lion, if you can't carry the entire thing, to prove to them that see what I killed. At least as a bragging point. The average teenager will like to brag about such a thing. Even if you are not a teenager, even if it is in your old age you kill lion, you will at least snap selfie. It's a trophy. It's a major trophy. You bring it home. So, he did that with lion. And if they didn't know before, now they know that lion did that place. But they still sent him back there alone until bear came. Does that look to you like a boy that everybody cared about in the house? But that was part of his process. It was part of his making. All that needed to be worked into his design. Because the quality of person that God was building cannot afford to be a spineless person that every little thing breaks him. Remember, this guy is going to have a lot of heartbreak to deal with, a lot of betrayals to deal with as a warrior and as a king. Then he moved from that point to becoming, at some point he ended up in the palace of Saul to start playing instruments. At some point he killed Goliath and the women decided to create trouble. Because before the women started singing, Saul was grateful that Goliath has died and the headache of the Philistines was done and over with. How the news escaped from the battlefield to town that it was David that killed Goliath while Saul was hiding in the tent. How that news arrived in town before the people that fought the war, we don't know. And there was no Instagram. There was no Facebook. But the news has reached home before the people who fought. The news of how the battle went, who started the war, who killed Goliath, arrived home before. And the women decided to contribute their quota to the war by coming to sing. Saul has killed his 1,000. David has killed his 10,000. That is, Saul decided that this problem has to be solved. And the only way to solve it is to use javelin to pin David to the wall. Oh, by the way, one of the greatest deliverance the Lord can conduct in your life is to be comfortable in your calling, such that, how do I put it? Why it's totally okay to covet certain gifts and certain graces is totally fine. But why I wish I can move in this dimension, I'm grateful with the one that I can do. I will drill my roots deeper in this one that I can do. I will be the best guy you can think of to do this one that I am doing. Why I'm reaching for this one, but I'm not going to be reaching for it out of jealousy. I'll be grateful to God for you. If there's something that you can get done better than me, it will be, why should I be suffering myself to do something that someone else can do better than me? And the person is within reach. But no, I just have to do everything to prove a point. Why? That was supposed to be an asset to Saul. Saul should have put his hand on the David's shoulder and be walking with him to town and be bragging about him because he's still not king. He's still under you. The guy should spend his life appreciating you for the opportunity to try out his stone and sling. Because if you are told him, my friend, will you sit down? In fact, go back and meet your father. Are you mad? I think we are playing here. No matter how good he was, he wouldn't have nobody would have found out that he could have killed Goliath. Nobody. The reason he did it was that you allowed him to do it. That means you made, even though you couldn't kill Goliath, you made an intelligent decision as a leader that resulted in the death of Goliath. Well, Goliath is dead. Can we all enjoy the victory together? The women came to sow madness in his heart. And then the madness met a measure of madness in his heart. And because somebody can try to sow something in your heart. If your heart is not a soil that is suitable for the growth of that thing, it will not grow. So it's not about what somebody has sown in your heart. It's the state of your heart, whether your heart is accommodating the nonsense seed or not. It's what determines what becomes of the seed that somebody sows in your heart. So if, for instance, somebody tells me that I am foolish now, I will not now sit down and say, hey, now, wow, am I really foolish? Maybe I'm actually foolish. But well, I've made a couple of foolish decisions in this life. It might just be that I'm really foolish. I will not even think about it. I'll just shake my head. It's okay. Ignorance, foolishness is an office. Somebody must occupy it. You have chosen the office of the fool. It's okay. I'll just move on with my life. I will not spend time, 1 minute of my life convincing you that I'm not foolish. Why? The time I spend convincing you that I'm not foolish I'm using the time to prove your point. If I try to convince you that I'm not foolish, maybe you are correct. I'm probably actually really foolish. Why should I show you that I'm not? There's no need. I will just move on. Did you notice that the brothers of, what they call it, Joseph, when he told them the story of his stars, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars were bowing down to me. One thing that didn't strike them is that, so I am a star. It didn't occur to them. The first thing that came to their mind is that they are bowing down to someone. That was the problem they decided to solve. But before you bow down, you were first a star. But comparison destroys your capacity for gratitude. So once they compare their state or that even though I'm a star, the fact that I'm bowing down to someone is a problem that needs to be solved. So the fact that they were a star, they threw that one in the trash can and decided to be bitter about the fact that they bowed down to someone. And the fact that they bowed down to someone totally deleted from their head the revelation of the fact that, it means I, Judah, am a star. It means I, Zebulun, am a star. That one totally didn't count for anything because all that suddenly mattered was that, so me, I will bow to you. And that was the kind of thing that happened to Saul when the women began to do their thing and chanting. And you know the result of that? David ended up running from wilderness to wilderness, trying to dodge Saul. All that entire running up and down was his training in warfare. It is one thing to do fium, and sink a stone into the head of somebody. It's a totally different thing to have to endure the hardship of war for days. War can span for months. War can span for years. If he's going to be able to endure the difficulty of war, he needed that training that Saul gave to him, pursuing him all over the place, from wilderness to wilderness, from cave to cave, from town to town. And it was in doing that, the men that became the mighty men of David, it was those crazy fellows that went to meet him in the cave of Adullam. Those were the main men he could depend on as soldiers when the time came. And nothing gives you security as a king as when you are surrounded by soldiers that you raised. Now, I was listening to one man of God, and he said something that I considered very wise. He said, I don't use a pastor that I don't train. He said, so you have gone to, let's say, Chosen, and they have trained you there. You are very deep. You have revelation. You now move over to my church. I will now find out, this guy is very deep. Then I will now give you a church to pastor. I said, no, not me. I will not try it. So I can't trust you if I have not trained you. Now, that doesn't mean he will never make this guy pastor. If there's a pastoral grace on his life, but he has to train him. He has to contribute his quota. Because you can't expect the loyalty of a soldier you have not trained. A soldier that has been made somewhere else now comes. You can't bank on his loyalty. You can't bank on his loyalty. The men that were loyal enough to David, to go and break garrisons, to bring him a cup of water, those were the men that met him when they were nothing. And then he trained them and made an army out of area boys. And the God of Israel. So when they say that he is the God of the army of Israel, God of hosts, he's actually God of the bad boys. That God now became. Because those bad boys, David got hold of them and made them. You see, people are like fire or like water. If they are not harnessed, you'll be shocked how much destruction a person can accomplish. That's why I used to tell Christian, please don't be an ignorant person. If you say Adolf Hitler now, some Christians think that it's a footballer you're talking about. If you say Joseph Stanley now, some Christians are sure that you are talking about a boxer or a wrestler. But you know those two people were in church. And Adolf Hitler had a record that he was one of the laziest human beings they had ever seen. That guy was lazy. Oh, Jesus. They said the guy was so lazy, he has never been able to keep a job for 1 week. That before he joined whatever, and by the way, wasn't a German. Adolf Hitler was Austrian. That guy that plunged Germany into madness was from Austria. But you know what he had going for him? He could talk. When he starts talking, he has everybody wrapped around his finger when he starts talking. Even though in every other regard, terribly lazy human being. That was his reputation as a young man. But he could talk. That capacity to talk. And he went through seminary at some point. That's why Kenneth Hagin used to call those seminaries theological cemeteries. Because if there was a life in that place, the capacity to talk upon that guy has was probably the grace God has put upon him to be an effective preacher. To be an effective communicator of whatever other good things can be communicated in this life apart from motivating people to work. But nobody harnessed it. Nobody trained it. And nobody channeled it into purpose because every good and perfect gift comes from God. If the guy could talk that well, enough to match and to, you know what it means to go and spring up war in like 3 different fronts? The guy went to start war against USSR and against UK at the same time while fighting Poland. Even though it looks like he has already made a mess of Poland before he went to face the other guys. Joseph Stanley was so sure that no, now this guy cannot start a war with me because he's already at war with a portion of Europe. So it's unlikely that he'll come and start a war with me. So when they were telling Joseph Stanley that Adolf Hitler is coming, he said, no, now it's not possible. He cannot come and start another war with Russia. He's already at war with this thing. They were so sure he couldn't do it. What did he tell those people that convinced them that they could take on USSR and UK and France at the same time? Is that not the same thing that some preachers have going for them? That when they finish talking, you will empty your pocket. All the money you convince yourself you did not have, you will suddenly have it when they finish telling you. When they finish drilling stuff into your head. You will start bringing up things that you don't have. You will show your phone, you will show your laptop, you show your shirt, you show your boxers. It's not because you were stupid. There is something upon them that compels you to obey them. That was the same thing upon Adolf Hitler. Nobody channeled it. And you see, as fire looks like a dangerous thing until you need to boil beans, then it's suddenly a necessary evil. Fire looks like a very terrible thing until you need to roast something or you need to burn dirt or something. But you see, what makes that normally destructive thing useful is coordination. Somebody is controlling it. Somebody is channeling it. That's what makes it a good thing. Once that control is out of the way, it's suddenly a terrible thing, suddenly a destructive force. And it's the same thing with water. Everybody in this room has used water today. If you are not sure how useful water is, let everybody arrive next week and make sure you have not done anything with water. See if you'll be able to stay in this room. That's how useful water is. But if you see videos of the havoc that water, that same water that, I don't think we should be describing the usefulness of water at this point. But that same water has wiped out entire cities, just wiped it out. And what happened? All that happens is that the water was suddenly not being channeled anymore. The water was out of control. Once control is removed, once nobody is annexing the capacity of something, however good the thing is, the thing becomes destructive. And the same thing goes on with human beings. So the area boys that went to meet, it was area boys that Jephthah also used to execute his own war. They were area boys too. So those area boys that ordinarily should have been a nuisance to the society, the deliverance of the land was in the hand of those area boys. All that it required was cohesion. Somebody needed to step up and provide leadership for them, and suddenly the purpose of those guys began to shine forth as soon as somebody provided leadership for them. And that was the same thing that happened with the guys that were with David. Those were the guys that became the mighty men of David. Whoever else joined them and found their square root in the midst. But the mighty men of David, those guys were produced from that place. And the first one they had to fight was running up and down. And hope you know that was his chance to teach them the fear of God. Because one of them was with him when they saw Saul lying down. And the clown that was supposed to be guarding him had also slept. And they told him, bros, the Lord has delivered your enemy into your hand. Alpha, what's up? Let's solve this problem once and for all. So that we don't keep running from bush to bush. And David said, nobody's going to put his hand on the Lord's anointed and be guiltless. And the guy said, fine, if it's a guilt problem, I can take the guilt. Just give me permission. I promise you I will make it painless. 1 second is alive. The next second I have unalived him. He does not even get a chance to feel pain. I can assure you, he will not scream, he will not make noise. It's just, pam. I'll just loop off his head and that'll be it. It's not slaughtering things, just pam. Just separate the head from the distance. We're done. Totally painless and leave the guilt for me. Say no, I still have to be the one to give you permission. Eventually I'm responsible. Say plus, he is the Lord's anointed. Say the problem is not his person as Saul. He is the Lord's anointed. Now, if you were the guy, won't you be angry with that? Bro, come. List the Lord's. Are you not the Lord's anointed? Because at the time, David was already anointed. Are you, they not anoint you. Why is one anointed trying to kill another anointed? I mean, waiting they worry you. Let us kill this guy and saying the Lord anointed. Are you not tired of running up and down like antelope inside bush? This guy carried the army that they are financing with the tax of Israelites. He's using to pursue you up and down. And you're saying he's not anointed. Waiting they worry you. Hope you know a lot of the guys that were following David were very much likely older than him. Because he had the very most to be in his early 20s. All that time he was running up and down. Because by the time he got to the throne, he was 30. So he was in his 20s all the while. Some of the guys that banded up to him were older than him. It was that period he taught them the fear of God. Because I'm sure the matter of he got a chance to kill Saul and didn't kill Saul. The other guys who were not present when they saw Saul, we hear it. And he's going to have to explain to them why you don't kill the Lord's anointed. Those were the times he trained the guys, not just in war, but in the fear of God. That was how come those were the men that stayed with him through the period. It's unlikely that any of those men will now stand up and follow Absalom when Absalom was misbehaving. Very unlikely. Those were the times he gained the trust and the respect of those men. Even though those were supposed to be the dark hours of his life. If you see the Psalms he wrote in those periods, those were the dark Psalms. But actually, that was part of the process by which the Lord was preparing him to be effective as king. Some of those Psalms that he wrote that time, some people are still finding it as a blessing to their soul. I mean, words that they can say to God when their life is hard. Even though a lot of people are spoiled, when they go and carry those Psalms and go and be reading, nothing has. All that happens is that they are broke. So all that time they are reading Psalm and pretending like they are suffering. Just send them 10K. They will start reading that stupid Psalm. They will start reading other Psalm that they are reading and pretending like they are suffering. And people are just spoiled. Once they just see one small hardship like this, they start singing Omoloye Baba. I'm very, very, very responsible Christians. So, after his episode with Saul and this thing, his life continued until he got to the point where eventually he made him king in Hebron, became king over 2 tribes, before later the remaining 10 tribes joined and all that. In all those seasons, a lot of his Psalms were not written as king. Some of the Psalms were written as, how in the world would they have been able to give us Psalm 23 if he wasn't a shepherd? So a lot of the Psalms that he learnt about the power of God to defend were Psalms that were inspired by his experience in war, by his experience at a time when he needed to defend himself from Saul without killing Saul. You know how hard it is to defend yourself against someone you don't want to attack? So they said the best form of defense is offense. But you're having to defend yourself against someone that you don't want to kill, even if you had the chance. That's a very hard person to defend yourself against. But it is possible. He did it. All those experiences and all those processes are part of the process by which God is designing and shaping and drilling the man and carving and chiseling the man into the shape of the man that we now talk about today as the man after God's own heart. He wasn't clearly not a perfect person. Asking you people know the exploits he did. His first 6 sons were from 6 different women. A very interesting guy. He decided that he was the next of kin to a fool. People apparently you don't get it. As soon as Abigail died, Nabal means fool. The person who was supposed to marry Abigail was Abigail's next of kin. So David decided that he was the next of kin to a fool. Because as soon as Nabal died, David showed up the following day and made Abigail his wife. I wonder who he paid dowry to. I wonder whether he saw anybody's family. He just collected the woman and carried on with his life like nothing happened. This guy didn't have accommodation. He was running up and down because Saul was always pursuing him. But he was collecting wife. And you know what they told us in the next verse? He also married Ahinoam the Israelites. Just straight away, just added another wife. While he was running up and down, he was piling up wives. So by the time he was king, he had amassed a lot of them. First 6 sons, 6 different women. In the midst of that, they probably were burning girls. So it was the sons they told us. So he probably had 10 wives by the time he was king. But then, the Lord has still managed to shape him and channel his passion into the fulfillment of his purpose. Even the people that you think failed, sometimes the Lord will still take their misbehavior and their scatter-headedness and manage to get them to fulfill purpose. Either they are trying to do it or not. Hope you know that Samson wasn't trying to fulfill purpose. But what the angel said is that he will begin to deliver the people of Israel from the hand of Philistines. Every word that Samson fought against the Philistines, he fought for himself. There was not one word that guy fought for Israel. Everyone fought for himself. The first time they played a game and they used his wife to scam him. Then he went to kill 30 Philistines to collect their shirt and come and give to their fellow Philistines. Then those people got angry or whatever. Okay, then he got angry and didn't take his wife before leaving the place. By the time he returned, hey, Chief Alpha, where my wife? I mean, that guy was a crazy fellow. He wanted to go and sleep with the woman in her father's house. Said, hey, Alpha, where my wife? The man said, sorry, you can't enter. Besides, she's not even here again. How is she not here again? So where is she? I have married her. I've paid dowry. She's not in your house. I can assure you she's also not in my house. So where is she? Say, well, she's in the house of your best man. Send me where I can just collect the sister. I mean, they were very crazy in those days. Say, well, there's no need to throw tantrum. You can just collect the sister. She's really cute too. And Samson got angry and eventually cut the long story short. He had a battle against this thing. He tied tail of foxes together and put a torch to it and sent them into the harvest of the Philistines. Those ones showed up, said they wanted to fight his people. Then his people bound him and handed him over. Then just when they surrounded him and they thought they had made it in life, he broke the rope and killed a couple of thousands of them. Every time the guy fought, he was defending himself. Even to the very last minute where he was pulling down pillar, he said, now will I avenge my 2 eyes. It was about him. Every inch of the way it was about him. He said, now will I avenge my 2 eyes that the Philistines plucked out. There was not one occasion he was fighting for Israel. But you see, his purpose was spelled out by the angel. He will begin to deliver the people of Israel from the Philistines. Did he begin to deliver them? Yes, purpose fulfilled, even though he was crazy fellow. Why was he able to fulfill purpose even though he was bouncing up? The Lord has installed in him what it was going to take to get it done. Even though he was a scatter-headed dada guy, he still got the thing done. Albeit on the intention, he wasn't intentionally trying to do it, but he got it done. Now, if in his state, as a scatter-headed fellow, he managed to get it done, one of the things that does for me is that I don't go about being afraid that, what if I miss my purpose like this? If I just get to heaven and God said, I don't know who sent you to be preaching, you're supposed to be a banker. What will I now do with my life? I'll now be finding out that I could have been Charles Soludo's mentor, but I was preaching to all these single boys in Shufa. No, I don't sit down meditating on those kind of nonsense. Because if Samson who doesn't care about anybody, doesn't care about God, doesn't care about Israel, the only time he talked to God is when he was stranded. Unless he's stranded, he doesn't talk to God. He didn't even bother gathering army. He didn't train anybody. It was a one-man battalion. If Samson managed to get his purpose fulfilled, I will not be blood-bought and blood-washed, Holy Ghost filled and tongue-talking, and not get the purpose of my existence fulfilled. I will get it fulfilled. God does not have a problem rerouting people. Have you seen somebody that is trying to use Google Map to locate a place before? And Google Map said, in the next 200 meters, turn right. When you are closer to the right, you say, take the next right to Yakubu Gowon Street. And you now drive past the next right. Then the Google Map will start to swear for you. Say, you know, say you be fool. I say, may you take the next right now. You drive past the next right. So where can't they go now? You be mumu. He just goes. That's Benin Google Map. No, if it is Benin Google Map, once you don't take the next right, Ogun they kill you. You know, yes, I say, may you take the next right. That's not what the Google Map does. It just go clum and begins to look for an alternative route. Now it might be longer. Now you go burn fuel. Now your time they waste. But eventually, it will reroute it in such a way that you are going to arrive at that same place through a different route, but you will arrive. That is hopefully at some point you eventually obey. You will arrive. The next instruction might be make a U-turn. The next instruction might be, okay, in the next 500 meters, go and take left, since you don't want to take right. And then you now take left and now go and turn around and arrive at the same place where it told you to take right and you refuse to take right. But it doesn't give up on you until you arrive. It keeps giving instruction until you arrive. It doesn't give up and say, it be like say you know one go. Let us say where you want to go is St. John's Cathedral. Say, guy, it be like say you just pretend. You don't really want to go St. John's Cathedral. No, I don't leave you. May go anywhere where you want to go. It doesn't do that. It continues to reroute until it brings you to the place. And it doesn't stop talking if you set it to talk. It doesn't stop talking until you arrive. Or at least you go there and click, I have arrived, or you disengage the app. Now, if Oyinbo people are not necessarily very kind people, doesn't mean they're bad people, but if they can manage to design something like that, I don't think the Holy Spirit in me is less patient than Google Map. I don't think he's less intelligent than Google Map. I don't think he has a problem rerouting me if I miss a turn. If he could bring Samson to fulfill purpose as he decrees rich, you will also fulfill purpose. So leave that fear of what if I just miss it now. Am I sure I should have studied medicine? Maybe I should have studied Islamic geology. Don't worry about it. Leave all the what ifs. And just from where you are, follow him from there. He knows how to get you to where you need to be from where you are. If you will just follow him from there. And if you miss a turn, don't sit on the ground and start rolling on the ground and give up on everything. Don't worry. Just get up and continue following from where you are. Well, I don't know how I started out saying purpose precedes design and I said all those things. Okay, purpose happens before design. I said that. I think I've also added the second principle, which is purpose determines design. I've already added it to it. So purpose precedes design is a matter of which comes first. Purpose comes before design. The second point is purpose determines design, which I think I've already shared. But it's one of the examples that came to mind for me in that is the story of this man, Ezekiel. As I saw it in what they call Ezekiel chapter 4 and 5. And I was just wondering, how did God train this guy? Because his vision started by the river Keba in the midst of the captives. And you'll be shocked the kind of vision the Lord can bring to you in the most impossible places if your heart is just tuned towards him. So while they were by the river sitting and feeling hopeless, together with other captives, he was receiving the vision of the Lord that made up a lot of what we call the book of Ezekiel. That was the starting point of the revelations of God to him. And by the time we got to chapter 4 and 5, the guy was beginning to receive crazy instructions. Son of man, lie down on one side for 400 years. Because Israel is going to be, for 400 days rather. What is more than 1 year? That's like 1 year and like 3 months. To be lying down just on one side. And to be eating bread and water in very miserable measures. Oh, and the bread is going to bake it on, the first recommendation, you bake it on human dung. So the biogas generated from human dung is what is supposed to use to bake the bread. Now I say, God, I've never eaten anything unclean in my life. I say, okay, well, let's be nice. Let's do cow dung. Like that's supposed to be more attractive. Although cow dung smells less than human dung. Or some of you, your shit smell there. So, God said, okay, fine. Since you're not very excited about human dung, let's do cow dung. So for 400 days, this guy will be lying down on one side, just to illustrate a prophecy. You know, most of those prophets, the Lord was not primarily trying to get them to make declarations or to deliver a message. No. The target of the Lord was always to make them into the message. So, if I come and tell you that you are going to captivity for 400 years after lying down for 400 days, the way I will screw the message into your head, then your skull will almost break. Because why you have been rolling up and down your bed? For the past 14 months, I have been lying down on one side of my body. I'm prophesying to you and misbehaving. If I slap you, think I'm playing here. Then when that was over, after the 390 days of lying down, I was saying, hey, son of man, lie down for 40 days. On the other side, because Judah is also going to captivity for 40 years. Then when they were done with that, in fact, there was another even crazy one where he was using his finger to dig wall, and he's supposed to start trying to escape through the hole that he dug, because that's how tight their escape is going to be. Then later, they said, it was then I found out that, if you understand Yoruba, when they say, when they barb your hair, when you go to school, they barb your hair, those of you that your mother used to use blade to scrape it. And they will now rub it with engine oil. And your father will now look at you and say, my God, fine boy. But whether you are fine or not, you find out when you go to school the following day. That's when you know if you are fine. So when you go to school, of course, from the assembly gang, if your school has gate, from school gate, one of your classmates don't show up. IG. They'll start servicing your head from the school gate. From the assembly ground, even people from junior classes will be contributing their quota to the development of your newfound beauty ministry. Then they'll be calling. Have you heard Father Gary before? No, you're laughing too much. Now, that Father Gary thing, the first person that did it was not the secondary school guy that you saw in Lagos. The first person that did it was Ezekiel. The Lord told him to use a sword. To use sword like razor, to barb his head and to barb his beard. Said, divide it into 3. Said, 1/3 of it you will cut to pieces. Another 1/3, you will burn with fire. Another 1/3, you just scatter it and let breeze carry it away. I mean, why do I have to go through all that? I could have just told them, thus says the Lord, 1/3 of you will be scattered abroad. 1/3 of you, a fire they told us tonight. The remaining 1/3, the taste will take you down. Why can't I just say that? First of all, you know how much of a disgrace it is for you to remove all your beard and to remove all your this. And if you want to do it, say you get a nice cut. But no, he has to use sword to scrape it. Can you imagine? Now, it's not going to cause someone to come and scrape it for him. He will use one hand to hold up his own hair and use the other hand to be using sword to cut it. You know the possibility of damaging his own head, behaving like a psycho like that. But that was the instruction. And when he was done cutting it, he went to do everything they asked him to do. They say, oh, wait. Take a portion of it, tie it to the edge of your clothes. He said, because just as I'm scattering them and burning them, a portion of them, a remnant, will be kept. That was part of the making of that prophet. And I'm wondering, before he even got to that point where he was receiving those kind of instruction, how did God build that quality of man that can obey those kind of weird instructions? You know, I just stumbled on something that Reverend Ariogun said this afternoon. Because one of the things I like to do after I finish teaching is that I just want to listen to someone else. It's part of my rejuvenation process. So I just went to YouTube and I saw Reverend Ariogun ministry. He was already closing the ministration. And he said something. He said, you can't be a prophet and people's opinion is important to you. You can't hear God. You can't speak for God effectively like that. Says so, if you have a prophetic ministry, how do you respond to people's opinion? Because one question that Ezekiel keep having to answer every time he's doing those crazy things is, Alaye, what is this one you are doing again? That question came up over and over again. And that was his opportunity to now deliver the prophecy to them. It became such a, even though those were gathering to him and thinking he was telling very nice stories, and they were just, for them it was moonlight tale he was telling. There was a time he was prophesying. There was such intensity in what he was saying. I don't know what Pelatile, or what's the name, did. While Ezekiel was prophesying, Ezekiel didn't talk to him. He was just prophesying. The guy fell down and died. But before God gave him that kind of intensity in the spirit, before God put that kind of power on his speech, there was a training he went through that prepared him for almost impossible obediences. So, the kind of grill and drill that the Lord is going to put a person through is dependent to a large extent on what the Lord intends to do with the person. Because the way you fashion the foundation, the way you dig the foundation, the kind of material you put at the foundation of what is going to be a skyscraper, you don't do the same thing for bungalow. Not because you don't like to do it, but you see, they are doing the same thing for bungalow. You are being wasteful. You are wasting money. You are being ridiculous. It's useless. So even if you have money, you are not going to be putting the foundation of a skyscraper under a bungalow. You are wasting it. That's not a sign that you like quality. It's a sign that you are being dumb. Because the thing you are going to bury under a skyscraper as foundation could have built a nice duplex somewhere. So if there comes a season in your life where it looks like the Lord is grilling you like catfish, where it looks like, if like I say they don't bring, so I know the catfish for you. Where it looks like the Lord has brought chisel and hammer and is carving, he keeps peeling. Just when you think you're already fine, he brings the chisel and hammer and keeps hammering away and keep peeling off another layer of your flesh and an additional layer of your flesh, and he keeps carving it and keeps chiseling away. And when you think it's supposed to be done, it just continues to chisel away. Know that there's a particular shape he's trying to achieve. If he doesn't shape you like that, you will not fit into the place he needs to put you. You know, my favorite example when I'm discussing this kind of process is what these guys that do pottery used to do. I used to watch them in a kind of that year, those who do what they call ceramic work. So first of all, go and get the clay in its very raw state. They will soak it in water for days. And sometimes I just imagine if the clay can talk. By the way, the process by which those guys do work is a very depressing process. In the places where people are serious about work, they don't do those processes anymore, but, well, that's what they have. So they first of all soak the clay so that the clay can be soft and they can work with it. And there are those who are very hard creatures. That the Lord does not, before the Lord can even start to do anything with you, they need to first of all abandon you inside bucket, pour water, just soak you first. Because your heart is hard. There are those that are something that happened 17 years ago. Number one, they have refused to talk about it. But they can't get past it. But they have refused to open up. And you see, it's like a wound. If you keep covering a wound and keep covering a wound, it will only fester and deepen. Now it will have something like a fake cover on it. That will make you look like it's like the rest of the flesh, or it's not that bad. But you that is carrying it, know that it's a potential disaster you carry in your body. And there is no way anybody is working on a wound without first of all opening it. In the process of dressing it, it will look like they are digging the wound. And they are, sometimes if the thing already has what they pause inside, and they have to press it, they have this thing that looks like lumps that they have to dig it. When they are done, it will now be deep. It will now look like they have injured you than you were before. But that thing that looks like injury, that dig where they dig and come out so, is the way you do to make sure you don't end up with something that will make them have to cut it at some point. Because when you now get infected with something more serious, you will know that the first injury, in fact, it can be so bad you will not even remember what it will look like when the small injury first happened. So there are those that have been handled, that have been calloused. They have been hardened by experience, by hurt. And pain requires to be felt. Nobody is invalidating your feelings. Nobody is saying there's some that you don't have the right to feel the way you feel. But in the interest of your future, can you let go of your past? Because that which is supposed to be an event, you make it into a person. You now embody it because you refuse to let it go. It now becomes you. A painful event are taking place, but you have now become a pained person because you refuse to let it go. And then one day, somebody is going to be paying. Somebody who has no clue what happened to you will be paying for this thing you have decided is your right to keep it, to guard it jealously. At some point, the hurt and the pain and the injury needs to be exposed to light, needs to be exposed to air, and whatever is required to treat it. When it is time to bind it up and cover it, the Lord will bind it up and cover it. But the only broken heart that the Lord can bind is the heart that is first of all brought to God and submitted to God and exposed to God and brought to light. Otherwise, you see this clay, the Lord will have to soak it inside water for a long time. That when it softens up, and we can now pound it. You know what the boys used to do in the camera? Then they'll bring it out and they'll start matching it. They'll be matching it and matching it. But if you are passing by, they'll beg you, now come help us match this thing. Because if they don't match it smooth, they will not be able to use it. They will match it and then take it back inside water and sieve it because they need to remove all the stone and all that. But by the time they start working with it, they cannot afford to find any stone in it. It can spoil their work. Remove all the stone and sieve it and all that, cover it for a while, then bring it out again and now put it inside one sack so that the water can drain out. Then eventually they cut it into pieces depending on the size of what they want to do. And the thing arrives on the throwing wheel at some point. And the thing will be turning. They can, so one item can be on the, depending on the quality of the throwing wheel. Some of their throwing wheel are very useless. The thing will be turning to some of the throwing wheel are so useless they have to be using their hand to roll it like this. People are suffering in this country, but it is well, it is free education, so you can't complain. So they have to use their hand to be rolling the throwing wheel, like the type that the Moses used to bake cake. They use their hand to roll the thing like this. But it's easier to be rolling cake. To be rolling clay like that, it's a very terrible thing to do. Then when they are done rolling it, the part I was going to is the part where they now take it into the kiln. Now, that kiln, I don't think there's anywhere that can be hotter than that kiln. It's not the mate of the bakery, the normal local bakery that they construct like incinerator and brew bread. People now have electric bakeries now. No. That kiln is hotter than bakery. If you walk close to it, it looks like you will burn by just standing close to it. I remember then they used to try to use the cook beans. Every beans they have put inside the king comes out in ashes. Sometimes the pot comes out useless. Yes. That king can melt pots. That's how hot it is. And sometimes after you have worked on a piece of work, pottery, for days, the place where you will find out the quality of your work is inside the king. He can go inside the king and come out strong, solid. The only thing that is left is to paint it. Can go inside the king. And the next line of action is that you have to pound it back to pieces because it is broken. You have to pound it back to pieces and send it back into water so that your clay will not waste. And it's a lot harder to now get that one to soak water. Because it has been to the king. Getting it to soak water is almost hopeless. But the boys are managing money. They bought that clay. So they have to pound it and put it back inside water for days so that they can use it again. If the pot could talk, all the time the clay could talk, all the time they were matching it. Why are you matching him? I'm waiting there, so why they match me like this? Then he got to this, they can't turn it. Okay, you have been turning me for 2 hours. I mean, where will the turn they go? Then finally you have to send it inside fire that, this wickedness, no, they tire you. What am I doing inside here? Am I not already fine? But you see, if it's going to become that thing that they will bring out and maybe paint with a golden paint, and maybe draw all those kind of Asian things that will make it turn out like an ornamental pot, and it will come out looking beautiful. It has to go through all that to qualify for the beautification, what we call glorification. So if it's going to be able to serve the purpose of becoming a beautiful flower vase that they'll put maybe in front of a church, maybe in the sitting room of a rich man, if it's going to be able to sit in all the beautiful places where they want it to sit, it has to go through all those processes. It has to endure the pain and despise the shame that it has to go through in order to acquire the glory that is set before it. Can we bow our head and say to the Lord, let's just appreciate the Lord first for His word. That Lord, I know you made me. You made me for a purpose. I am discovering it. I am knowing it. I will not be confused about it. It's unlikely. The spirit that predetermined the purpose lives inside me, so I can't be confused about it. And I will arrive. Very unlikely that I will not arrive. I will arrive. I will arrive. I will arrive not because I'm wise, not because I'm smart, but because Jesus Christ, the wisdom and the power of God, is alive in me and at work in me. And is guiding me safely in the way. My steps are ordered by the Lord, for this God is my God forever, and He will be my guide even unto death. I am being empowered to receive the discipline that is required. I remember somebody asked Kachin Kuman, what is the price of the anointing? She said, everything. Everything. He said, but I was lucky. When it was my time to pay the price, I had nothing. So I told Jesus, I have nothing. No, now I am nothing. If you can use nothing, here I am. And the Lord took that nothing and made that an eternal excellence, a joy of many generations. So I don't know if you are something or you are nothing, but really, it does not matter. Are you going to follow God from where you are? Let's leave your history. Let's leave what happened, what did not happen, what broke, what did not break. The question is, are you willing to follow God from where you are? Let's leave the pain. You don't have to make the pain into a person by holding on to it and embracing it. That's not the thing that the Lord asks you to guard jealously. It's not a treasure. Yeah, you are falling before, you have made mistakes before, things have happened. Maybe you said things, you did things you shouldn't have done. Can you move on from where you are? Can you follow Jesus from here that you are? The place where Jesus met Peter and said, follow thou me, was the very place he shouldn't have been in the first instance. He carried all the disciples, took them back to the very fishing Jesus Christ removed them from. But Jesus met him and said, yeah, I know you shouldn't have come here. I know you denied me, you shouldn't have. But from where you are you willing to follow me? Let's leave where you are coming from. From here, will you follow me? It's guiding me safely in the way. Guiding me safely in the way. I know the way he walks, and I've seen the path he trots, 'cause his spirit is all over me. It's guiding me safely in the way. It's guiding me safely in the way. It's guiding me safely in the way. I know the way he walks, and I've seen the path he trots, 'cause his spirit is all over me. He's guiding me safely in the way. He's guiding me safely in the way. He's guiding me safely in the way. I am the apple of his eyes. I am the smile that splits his face. I am the star upon the crown of his head. He's guiding me safely in the way. He's guiding me safely in the way. He's guiding me safely in the way. He's guiding me safely